Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me as always is Chip Januszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing well. It's winter in New England, so we've had ice storms, 60-degree weather, all within a few days of each other. So
No, and tomorrow is March 1st, so it's really, really good. And still looking at I call it sneet, because basically it's a combination of the snow and sleet that's sitting out there, impossible to penetrate, tough to shovel, but it's still there like in a clump, which is really, really cool. So I call it sneet, snow and sleet.
there
But
you go. And
the
yeah,
days.
it's been an interesting season so far. But actually, we've gotten a lot less snow than they have in elsewhere around the country. So we're thankful for that.
Absolutely.
Amen. Amen.
So our guest today is Karen LaFleur. Karen works with special needs children and then she helps adults fix their credit. So, Karen, welcome.
Well, thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be on here with you and Chip. This is my first time, so I'm super excited. Um,
We're
I love
glad
it.
to have you.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, my name is Karen LaFleur, like you said, and I have been working in the education field for 18 and a half years. I work as a special education para in the town of East Hartford. And there are days where I do love it. And then there's days that are pretty stressful. But all in all, I truly enjoy it. I guess you could say it's almost like a calling. So I have a son who has a mild form of autism, and he's a high functioning adult now, and he's a very responsible young man, and he drives. So I'm super proud of him, and he's accomplished so much in his life, in his very short life.
So, you got into this because of your experience with your son.
Yeah. So I figured if I can, I had some experience with having, raising someone with autism. It's never easy, and there's always challenges no matter what. And I figured I could work with this in the school system, be home with the kids, on vacations and stuff like that. So it worked out pretty well. And it's been a great ride, a very great ride. But I can't believe it's been 18 and a half years. Oh my God. I feel so old. So
So,
Well,
what's the biggest challenge you've had working with the kids?
it's a lot of it is behaviors. And it's very challenging because they're stressed. They're not getting, they're trying to communicate how they're feeling and what they want, but it's very hard for them to actually communicate correctly so they can get their needs met, and it's very, very hard. It's a lot of repetitive and a lot of consistency, and everybody in the whole room that work together, we're trying to work on using the same rules and trying to educate the students in the same, we back each other up. If one says no, then everybody else says no. So we try to keep it, it's a great room, work with great people. And we all kind of, we just work very well. We congeal, I guess you can say.
So,
But yeah, go ahead.
I've spoken with a number of groups that work with autistic kids, and there seems to be a split among the community. So I'm going to ask you which way do you tend to approach this? Do you teach them to communicate the way most people communicate, or do you learn to communicate the way they're communicating?
It's actually, we try to do both. I try to understand what they're trying to tell me, or we try to understand what they're trying to say. We have communicating. We have ways of communicating with the kids with pictures. So the kids use pictures telling them how they feel or what they want. So it gives them, so we have incentive boards for them. We have incentives for them to actually, so because a lot of times the behaviors that escalate is usually out of frustration because they're not getting their needs met. They want everything all now. So, and a lot of times we're trying to teach them patience. So it's a combination of both. We're trying to teach them, trying to prepare them for society, but it's very hard to prepare for society because it changes. And it's very, they don't understand that it's not all about them. It's not, there are other people in the world. And so, yeah, that's what I
know a lot of people like that don't have autism. So, you know.
I know, but it's worse. Again, it's worse with the children that have that. So it's more of a social, a lot of social problems that they have, and they don't understand body language. Very hard for them. But you know, they learn, and they're capable of learning. I mean, they've learned these behaviors all on their own, how to get out of doing things, how to get what they want. They've learned those kind of behaviors. They've almost like, it's like self-taught. And so it's kind of going back and trying to restructure and get them to communicate properly communicate with us, so we can actually, so they can get their needs met emotionally and also academically.
So what do you work with all age groups in the school, or I mean, do you have like students from when they start to when they graduate and that kind of thing? It's an ongoing process.
Well, I'm right now, I've worked with different age groups. So I mainly work now with kindergarten up to second grade, but I have worked from third grade up to fifth grade. So I worked in an elementary school, and that's the highest grade that they have there.
Excellent.
So I worked with both classes. So now I am permanently in the room, kindergarten through second.
All right. So switching hats a little bit, how do you go from that to helping people fix their credit?
I seem to be picking careers, I guess you could say, in the field of helping people. And I figured, why not? Because there's so many, I love to help people to see if I can somehow change someone's life, and that not only in the classroom, but also outside the classroom with the credit repair. And it has changed my life immensely, because I started using the services myself. And I've seen such an amazing increase in my credit score. I didn't realize how bad my credit score, I won't mention what it was, but it's just that years ago, I let it go. And I had a second husband who didn't really believe in credit. He thought it was not even important. So he didn't want to put anything in his name. So all the things was all put in my name. And then it got to the point where he got very sick and he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So he wasn't working for years. So I was the main sole income earner. And so there were times you had to pick and choose which you're going to pay. And so financially, it was a struggle. But, and that's where, I think that's where my credit basically started to tank, because my credit was kind of decent. But then it fluctuates. That's one thing about credit. Those credit scores, it fluctuates. It goes up and down, up and down. It depends on, making sure that you take care of it. But I wanted to help people, and I felt if it's helped me, I wanted to go out and see if I can help as many people as I can. So.
And that's actually a very common story where somebody, has a health scare, and the bills pile up, and that hits their credit. In many cases, people have to declare bankruptcy because of the cost of the health care. So it is good to, be paying attention to all of that.
Yeah. I truly believe, and I didn't side with him. I thought credit was very important. And the time that when I was married to him and needed a car, we couldn't get one because there was no way. And so you had to settle for either borrowing a car or settling for something that's a lot less, less expensive and not as reliable as a new car. So go ahead. You were going to say.
Well,
you were going to say something.
you mentioned having trouble getting a car.
Yeah.
And for most people, they understand the credit affects, getting a credit card, getting a car loan or a mortgage. But, you're involved in building credit. What does credit affect that people don't necessarily realize?
You wouldn't believe what bad credit could do. So when you go to look for insurance, whether it's either health insurance or if it's auto insurance, life insurance, those kind of things, it does affect that too. It also affects, believe it or not, your electric bill. So, and also, they don't do it anymore as much as they used to, but there's a lot of employers that do check your credit. And if they see that you have a very bad credit, I guess they look at you as untrustworthy or, which I don't find is fair because it's not right. I mean, people kind of had bad things happen to them. And so there are many things that it affects. So
you said you don't think that's fair, and I happen to agree with you. But over the last several years, a number of state legislatures have taken steps to actually prevent employers from checking your credit.
Right, exactly. Thank goodness for the federal credit, fair credit, the act that was implemented. Thank God they passed that. So thank God we have some protections. The government passed some laws about that, but a lot of people don't realize that. And I was one who was not. Thank God, ever since I started doing the credit repair, I've become financially literate in a lot of areas where I wasn't before. So that's what this company does, and the company that I partnered with. And so we can educate everybody on their finances and how credit works.
Yeah, so it all starts with the financial literacy part.
Yes.
Where they understand all the different components, because you just mentioned a couple that people wouldn't even think about. And then obviously what you do is, I'm sure you have services, education services to help coach them through things, plans to offer them where they can, improve on this or improve on that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've got budgeting tools. We've got a savings tool. So it tells you put in the amount of money that you need to save, whether 5,000 or 10,000. It tells you how much to save and how long it's going to take you to save it. And it gives you a budgeting, how to budget your monthly bills, and tells you if you're in the red or the black, and it explains why you're in that situation. But it also, with the other services that they provide too, is credit monitoring. So your credit score, you monitor your credit scores and why it's either going up or it's not. Identity monitoring too. And there's so many people that have suffered from people stealing their identities, and it seems to happen a lot more often. But thank goodness for stuff like that helps protect people. And that's one of many services that we have. But
yeah, that's actually something that is very important, especially right now. At the time that we're recording this, we're about 4 days into the Russian attack on Ukraine, and part of this has been a massive amount of cyber attacks. And those attacks have happened here in the US. So you do need to pay attention to your passwords, your identity, your social security number, and make sure it's all secure.
You have to. And that's scary. Just the whole situation that's happening in the world is pretty scary. We don't know what's going to happen. Nobody has a crystal ball. We have an idea what might happen. We have a lot of experts out there telling us what could happen. People that have invested in the stock market are kind of feeling a little shaky because that's fluctuating,
Yeah.
But believe me, war affects everything, not just
So
casualties.
yes. So, I mean, whether or not we've got massive global calamities going on or just, what's been going on in your own life, if you're concerned about your credit, what's the first thing that you should be doing?
Well, obviously, keeping track. I mean, go and check your credit score. That's the most important. You should start keeping an eye on your credit because like I said before, it fluctuates. It goes up and it goes down all the time. So you go and check your credit score by either Credit Karma, just agency like that, or free credit report, and to see exactly where you stand. And as you can see, I don't know if you've ever checked your credit score on these these 3 credit bureaus. They're not all the same. So each one of them have a different rate. So for example, if you're 750 on Equifax, you could be 730 on TransUnion. You know what I'm saying? So it changes. It's because these credit bureaus, it's not government owned or run. It's private, and they don't get the accurate information on people's credit history. They're getting it from different parties, different third parties, or even so they're getting all that, and a lot of the information is inaccurate. So that's where a lot of people's credit scores start to go down, and they don't realize that they have a lot of inaccuracies and discrepancies on their credit reports that can really pose a problem, for them. So the first thing I would suggest is keep an eye on your credit. Very important, because it does fluctuate. One day you can have 700, 730, and the next day it could be less. But, and what we have is a more accurate credit reporting, service that we have. And it's more accurate than Credit Karma and the other agencies. So the closest one is I would say Equifax. So
it's important for people to realize that there are 3 different credit bureaus. They don't calculate credit the same way, so your score can be different. And a number of years ago, the government put in basically a check on them that every year you are entitled to a free credit report from each of the bureaus.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
It's important to take a look, make sure there's nothing that's inaccurate on those reports, because if you don't tell them about it, they're not going to make any changes.
No. And that exactly. And a lot of they're getting these reports from these third-party companies that don't even know anything about you. Or you could have old credit cards on your credit report that could be weighing it down. And just by disputing that and getting them taken off, having them removed, is a way to your credit score starts to increase. So when you take things off that are negative, and by disputing, and we can dispute all of those, which is great, but there's no promises that all of them are going to be removed, but you can dispute them. You have a right to do that as a consumer. This is your credit score. This is your social security number. This is all your information. So you have a right to all that information, and you have a right to dispute that. So that's what we do, is we dispute that, and have a lot of incredible things. But people have seen some bankruptcies removed. We've had collections removed, and that's what the company does. So.
Chip, do you have any questions?
I'm just writing down different things here. I'm actually getting educated a bit here. I've been through this a bit, not myself, but lost my dad a couple of years ago, and things with my mom and this and that, and I mean, there's so many different things that affect things. And so, having a program where you're educating people and putting together the template for them to run by, it's so important. And I imagine, obviously that this is really financial planning too. And a lot
Right.
of people are really leery about that, sharing their finances with people and so on, because it's so personal. But I mean, it's something that we've done for years, and it's really, really, really important to
Mhm.
get somebody you trust and knows what they're doing to kind of guide you, because most people don't know how to do that. I mean, most people are just going to take out a checkbook, see how much money they have in the bank, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. And just as you're
Yeah.
saying, behind the scenes, these surprises could be happening. So, I mean,
Yep.
it's really so important to have somebody to be looking over this with you, helping you out with the program and that kind of thing.
So with a lot of things, and I'm just to mention also about some medical bills that are put on. Well, a lot of the information that is on your credit report is basically was never allowed by you, and they just put it on there. But that I just wanted to make that point. But we have had people using the services have their medical bills collections actually removed from their credit reports without even having to pay them. You're not, because when somebody sells your debt, there's another collection agencies that come and buy them. And to me, that just it's shady. Okay. There are lots of reasons why people can't pay their medical bills. And one of it is the lack of money. So, but having these derogatory items removed it's very important to know what the rules are. And seeing, because of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, we have a right as consumers to have all the information accurate and all the inaccuracies, obviously removed. That's one good thing about knowing your rights. And so what this company does is educates you in knowing how to prepare your future, how to plan correctly, how to budget, save, and to help build your credit and help your credit stay where it is and keep growing if you need it to be. So you have all those tools. And what's nice about that too is also preparing. So you were talking about preparing your future for your future. What we do also is will and trust. So the will and trust is very important. Now we think will as, okay, you're dead, then you have to, here, give your jewelry to your daughter, or, a certain amount of money you give to whatever you want to, give your money all to your dog. It's up to you. I've seen people do that. I've heard that. What's nice about having a trust is it's a living trust where, you give stipulations, whether, you could say at the age of 21, you can give it to your grandchildren or your own children and say, okay, you can make stipulations. They have to graduate in order to get this. So because you never know, things happen in life. Excuse me, with the pandemic, there were a lot of people that never expected to pass away. And I can give you a great example. My second husband, who didn't think credit was really important, also did not have a life insurance policy. And when you don't have any kind of life insurance policy or any kind of planning, in case of someone passing away, it leaves a lot of huge responsibilities to the family, the people that are left behind. And what's nice about this is that I'm in the process of actually writing out my will and my trust right now. And so the company does is guide you and helps you. And there's no extra fee for this. This is all together along with the other 14 services that we have. So it's important to have, your future planned. And it doesn't mean that you're going to die the next day. It's just that when you do pass away, you have something in place, and then they don't have to go to probate court and figure that out a year or two later after that. So
Yeah, that's a great service to have. And it's important for folks to realize that all the planning they're doing with credit, it doesn't just help your life, it
Mhm.
helps the lives of the people you're leaving behind.
Right.
I had a situation after my mother passed away where a disreputable collection agency tried to convince me that she had taken out a debt after she passed away. And I had to go to court and fight it. And I mean, fortunately, I knew what I was doing and I won. But if you don't know what's going on, if you're not financially literate, then con men like this can take advantage of you.
Right. Yes. So there's a protect this, what this offers not only, educates you financially, but it protects you. So that's very important to have your identity protected. Nobody wants to go through that whole process where you got to, somebody steals your identity and uses it for evil. And nobody should be forced to be paying for somebody else's mistake. You know what I'm saying? For other evil doing. So it's not their mistake. They were doing it on purpose. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, there's ways that you can get yourself out of these financial situations, and there's help out there. And what's great about the company is that the company offers help that the people need. So it helps people as a whole and teaches them from credit restoration to the end when they don't need it anymore. And and that's what I love about it. And that's the reason why I decided to, pursue this. And I wanted to help as many people as possible.
Great. Well, we are coming up on the end of our time. So if somebody needs help with their credit or wants more information, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can call me. They can text me, call me. I'm available. You can reach me at 860-815-7389. I'm always available for any questions. And I'm out there to help anybody who needs this, help building their finances, helping with credit restoration, and reach out for anything. So I'm here to help.
Great. Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
Well, it's wonderful to meet you and hear about your two careers based upon your labor of,
Oh, thank you.
obstacles that you've survived and are living with, and then paying it forward by helping people doing it. But I mean, the takeaway is it's so important to take off the blinders on your finances, thinking that everything's going to be okay, and get some help because it's out there. Even if it's just to guide you and put together a plan that, thank you for the plan, I'm going to stick to it, versus ongoing support. But you definitely have to have these in place because there are so many different obstacles out there that you don't know about, and so many variables. And so get help where it's needed. I mean, that's what these people are trained to do, and they want to help you out.
Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is, you have to take your head out of the sand. You have to pay attention to what's going on. So many people don't want to look at their finances, but it really is important. And yeah, we really should be teaching financial literacy in school, but it's good to know there's a resource since we're not doing that right now.
Eric, may I mention one thing?
Sure.
And what's so great about this company, and I'm sorry, I have to brag. They have a program for the youth financial literacy program that actually, so each time somebody pays on a monthly for their services, they $5 goes toward the youth financial literacy. They go to schools, they work with kids, young kids, for 5th grade up to 9th grade, and teaches them all about finances and credit and how everything works. So
that's fantastic.
so, so that was another reason why I went, oh my God, since I work with kids,
Right.
But anyway, I just wanted to say that.
I'm glad you did. I love that. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.